YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you, and this time I want to look at a blade that is pretty cool and one that there's not a lot out there about, but I think it probably deserves more attention than it's getting. A similar knife, also from Kershaw, is the Cryo 2, and it seems like everybody and their dog has done a Cryo 2 video, and myself included. And I mean, it's okay, and in fact a lot of the reviews have said, you know, this is an okay knife, but I think there are other options that probably beat it. This, I would suggest, would be one of those other options that are a little ahead of the Cryo in terms of ergonomics, in terms of deployment, in terms of blade length and knife size, everything, all the categories that I care about anyway. This knife does a better job than the Cryo. Could be because I'm not generally crazy about Rick Hinderer's designs, okay? I'll put that out there, so there's probably a little bit of a bias. But I feel like this knife is much nicer, does the job that the Cryo is trying to do, but does it just a little bit better. And so this is the Kershaw Scrambler. Kershaw Scrambler. It's an R.J. Martin design, and if you are into custom knives and you've looked at some of the guys on here that show you their custom knife channels, you'll see some R.J. Martin knives that have this bolster at the top of the handle and do this kind of separated thing in a frame lock design. So certainly Kershaw has not varied very far from the actual design, and sometimes I've got to say this is maybe worth your time if you're interested in a knife and it is made by a designer. Google it and find what the knife that it's based on actually looks like. Sometimes you'll find a very slim resemblance, and then other times you'll find it's almost exactly the same. I'm personally in favor of those blades that look very much like the designer's original custom. And this is one of those blades that certainly has the feel of R.J. Martin's original knife, although I think the R.J. Martin original is bigger. So, what do you need to know about this blade? Well, it's 5.25 ounces in weight. The overall length is 7 3/4 inches. The blade is 3.5 inches, and the handle, the width on that is just over 3/8 of an inch. It doesn't even quite get up to 7/16. It's actually a little under that. But because of that thinness, now it's thicker than the Cryo, and I said there'd be some comparisons here. One, because the Cryo is a really popular knife. Two, because they're very similar. They're both made by Kershaw. They're both coated with the titanium nitride coating. They're both assisted opening frame locks. They're both flippers. There's a lot of similarities between these two blades, but I feel like the Scrambler actually pulls ahead for a number of reasons. Anyway, one of the things that the that the Cryo does beat it on is the thickness of that handle. You can see that the Scrambler is just marginally thicker. However, in carrying it and in having it in your pocket, this dimension is marginally smaller, but smaller in a way that makes a bigger difference. So if I hold these knives side by side and with the clip at the top, the way they'd sit in your pocket, you can see how this knife is going to be a little bit thicker in its feel. Now the truth is that the actual width dimensions on these knives are very, very close. If you kind of go one behind the other, you can see that there's only a little bit of that Cryo sticking out. And at the widest points, they're actually the same, which is, you know, at the pivot, they're the same width. Now, for some reason, the Cryo just feels a lot thicker and a lot fatter. Probably, and that's partially a design element for sure. The overall dimensions, the blade dimension, the handle dimension, those things overall it carries its width more, where this knife has a look and feel that just says slim and sleek and classy. So size is, as just mentioned, less than 1/2 inch, 7 3/4 and 3.5 inch blade. The weight on this is 5.25 ounces if I haven't already said that. So let's get into the blade itself. The blade is a drop point blade with a hollow grind. It is very, very sharp, and it is coated with that titanium nitride coating that Kershaw does on a lot of its blades. And that coating is holding up pretty well, but I did a bunch of cutting to try and get a feel for this knife, and you can see that the coating is marked but not worn through for sure. So I think this coating is going to hold up pretty well for the use that most of us are going to make of it. The blade steel is HCR13 MOV. For those of you who need to know that, or maybe aren't looking at an open page with the stats on this knife right in front of you. Anyway, moving to the handle, it is well, this is sort of blade still, but it is a flipper design and a very functional flipper. You push down that, it pops out very nicely. A very, very solid lockup and very authoritative assist, which I really like about this, especially again compared to the cryo. My cryo, I know I was complaining about the deployment in that video, and it's still not a great deployment. This knife, on the other hand, deploys super fast, super smooth, and is superior as far as I'm concerned. Now, that could vary with the particular knife that you get, and I know that. Could be somebody else has a cryo that deploys so fast and so smooth it's unbelievable, and maybe someone out there has a scrambler that doesn't deploy well. We'll grant that. But in my experience, the scrambler is a much nicer deploying knife. The frame lock is cleaner and smoother as well. The cutout here is a small fine line with just a little hole drilled here. Some of my other frame locks, this opening is pretty big and it just feels rough. On this knife, that's not the case at all. It feels very clean, very smooth, and retains that classy look and feel that is a carryover from this side. On this side, you do have a G10 handle scale with a stainless steel bolster, and that is very similar to, I'm going to see, there we go. That is very similar to the R.J. Martin original. If you ever watch, if you're interested in custom knives at all, or if you just want to go and Google R.J. Martin and look at some of his blades, you'll see that this design by Kershaw is fairly true to his original intent, and I do appreciate that. It is a dual position pocket clip. You can carry it right side or left side, tip up only. And it's black, which is nice because it doesn't show up a lot out of your pocket. There's a little bit of knife that rides above your pocket, but not too bad. It's certainly not a deal breaker as far as I'm concerned. I suppose if you just have to have that deep carry pocket clip, yeah, this isn't technically deep carry in the sense that it doesn't actually come past the rear end of the butt of the knife here. It is not a flow-through design. You can see there's a backspacer there, but I think it's pretty cool as far as a design feature, how they milled out that backspacer so that it's actually see-through. I'll see if I can get the blue wall behind so you can see it more. There you go. You can see that that does have some openings in it, and I'm sure that'll catch some dust and lint and stuff, but it looks really cool, right? And it's not the end of the world to blow that out a little bit if you have to, or even stick a Q-tip or small brush or something in there to clean it out. Not a big issue, and I think it adds something to the overall design of the knife. Now, the lanyard hole. Lanyard hole is functional, I'm going to suggest, if you're carrying the knife tip up. However, it's pretty small, and I don't know, well, in fact, I'm fairly confident you wouldn't get 550 through there, especially if you didn't strip it out first. Now, if you stripped some 550 cord out, you might get it through that lanyard hole, and that would be good. The design is a Torx bit construction, so if you ever wanted to take this thing apart, you could do that. And a lot of knives you'll find over time you will have to take it apart and clean up this pivot area, clean the washers and clean the blade and everything else so that it slides a little nicer, and maybe put some new oil on it. Well, not maybe, definitely put some new oil on it, or you'll find it's worse after than it was before. So, my take on the Kershaw Scrambler is this is a really great knife. I'll try to hold it up a little more prominently while I'm talking here. This is a cool blade. You've got a lot of blade for your handle. That's one of the things I appreciate. If I'm going to carry a knife, don't take up all the space with the handle. Make the blade and handle ratio as close to the same as possible. Obviously, they can't be 1-to-1, or you'd have the blade almost finishing here where you could cut your finger or something, but as close to possible is really nice. This R.J. Martin design is very classy, very cool. And if you like some of the features of the Cryo but aren't that sure about it, I think you need to consider this blade. I think this would be a great everyday carry blade, would function exceptionally well in that role, and that's its design. You know, would it also serve as, you know, utility tasks and for outdoor stuff, and, you know, we could go on and on with applications? Yeah, it would probably be okay in a number of those situations. I did cut up some wood with it and found it did okay. That was more for testing the comfort of the handle as I pushed through a difficult material. It did fine, but I don't think that's the purpose of this knife. This is meant to be an EDC blade, maybe even a gentleman's folder, and I think in that capacity, you've got near perfection here. It looks cool, it feels cool. You know, that assisted opening is always nice, and it has this sort of classic feel with that stainless steel bolster and the blade shape and the finger choil forming there. It just has a great look and feel to it that's super comfortable to use, super cool knife to have in your pocket. And I've definitely got to give the Kershaw Scrambler high marks in pretty much every category. I don't really have any major complaint about this, with the exception of a pocket hole, which to me is not a big deal because I don't put lanyards on a lot of my blades. I have them on some. And if you really were the person who just has to carry tip down, there's no option for that. I don't think you're going to go far wrong with this blade. I found a great deal on this one, so but I think you're probably going to land around 40 bucks, give or take. And for that amount of money, you're getting a really, really nice pocket knife. Kershaw Scrambler, definitely A+. This is a knife that I really, really like, and I've carried it for preparation for this review, but this is never going to carry a lot even after I've done the review and moved on to other things. Talk to you later, YouTube.